Hey everybody, and welcome to Volume 30 of the One Piece Virgin Egghead Book Club podcast. I am your captain, Mumkey D. Jones, joined as always by the Virgin Vice Captain, Eggy V. Rodriguez.
Oi! Oi! That's right.
Now, Eggy, it recently resurfaced a bit of lost media between us, the first podcast we ever did together in our whole lives, back in 2019 on State of the YouTube, you, me, and Emp Lemon. And even on that one, I introduced you as Eggy Eggman Rodriguez, a nickname I gave you the moment I met you for some reason. I guess you just have bender energy.
Well, I do go on benders. I do tell people to get bent, and I keep that metal. If you know, you know.
Of course, this is Volume 30 of One Piece, covering chapters 276 through 285. And, oh my god, legendary moments we've all been waiting for, packed into this one. Basically everybody fights Eneru, like fucking Usopp and Sanji even get a round 2 against him after that horrible attempt on the boat. But Eggy, every curious listeners want to know, what is your top of mind?
Well, I have to say this, I think I sort of doubted myself on the last episode for the last volume. I said, listen, I think I learned something big here as far as Luffy goes, because I said, okay, I'm trying to think of how he's going to be able to do combat with Eneru. What's going to be the clinching proposition? I don't know if we've necessarily even found it yet, spoiler alert, but I guess the best thing I was thinking of was we're going to have mud. People, they're going to be down there, they're going to be in the ruins, and they're just going to heap some mud on themselves, and it's going to ward off the electricity. That's not what happened. No, Luffy, this whole time I wasn't really entirely sure.
Eggy, should we test this hypothesis scientifically, and next time that there's some sort of lightning storm here in Iowa, should we cover you in mud and just film you standing on top of a hill? See if you are okay when you get struck. God could use El Thor on you, and we'll see what happens if there's a big crater left in the ground. A big Ennie's lobby.
200 million volts super special. Maybe I'll really get chosen, especially if I do enough, what you might call maybe insult towards him in an upcoming unannounced special of sorts.
Is that the biggest attack we see? Does he do 200 million at some point?
It was either, I want to say it was 200 million. I could have been 20, but it was one of those two for sure. I want to say it was 200 million.
Probably when he's standing right in front of him and just blast him with his hand, and yeah. But are you saying maybe perhaps though, even if the mud theory was not correct, I think maybe I did hear Eggy bring up the properties of rubber at some point. Is this an accurate Eggy prediction on the board?
Well, as I recall, I think I probably did mention it, but I think I mentioned it in the way that, yes, we know he's the the rubber man or whatever, but I just kind of felt that it was more in the ways of elasticity up to this point. It's just okay, so he can stretch this much, he can inflate this much, but as far as some of these, what you might call maybe transitive properties of rubber, that's a smart sounding word that I think is the right one for that. I didn't necessarily think that his rubbery qualities would have an impact on the lightning match. So I want to say this too, because this does come up. Eneru, he hits him with the lightning. He thinks that Luffy's dodging it, duck, dodge, and dip, just like dodgeball, but that's not the case, folks. He's taking it right on the chin like a professional fighter he is. He's just taking these bolts. And when Eneru comes to this realization, an iconic, very distraught image of his face. I mean, he's got drippage from both nostrils, gigantic cartoon Looney Tunes eyes, jaws about going to the floor just like the Awooga Wolf. He is not a happy-looking man. And I gotta say this, when this was going on, my first instinctual reaction was I was getting a little bit of this Drum Island energy, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, so this Eneru's not going to be what I thought he was. Luffy, he just comes in equipped, and he's going to just soak up the lightning. He hits Eneru with a very good physical attack. He does some visible damage to him. I said, okay, so it's going to be something else going on here. And it did hamper me a little bit. Maybe you might even say it might have dampened my conductivity to the material. However, turns out that Oda was 2 steps ahead, just like my hero Nikocado Avocado, and he had some other things to work with. So, but I think that was probably the top of mind for me. Was just like, oh my goodness, this is something I didn't know about Luffy before. There's obviously a lot of other things going on here. The intensity is ramping up. We're getting a little bit of that same energy that I was feeling in Alabasta with the bomb, the time ticking down, the time is ticking down, and really there's other things ticking down too, big bolts. And we hear all about this from Eneru before. We end up kind of finalizing the volume with things being put into action. But just because this is going to impact what I know Luffy to be able to do for another 700 chapters or whatever from right now, 800 chapters, I feel like that was probably a really big thing here for me. And I feel like there was something else too, but that's just what I had in mind right off the top.
That image of Eneru's reaction face, realizing that Luffy is immune to his attacks, it's the moment that a god realizes he is mortal, because as Nami points out, there is no rubber up in the sky, so he had no enemy. And this goes into my top of mind, so I'll just bring it in now. Luffy comes out as an atheist hero here. He is the natural enemy of God. I mean, I kneel. This is my prophet of atheism right here, right now. Luffy, the natural enemy of God. I love that phrasing that is used, and it's just because he's rubber and the god is lightning, but still very... he's up there with TJ Kirk, Thunderfoot, all of our atheist heroes. Luffy's right there on the Mount Rushmore.
Sheldon
Cooper. But, well, I don't... He might have... he doesn't believe in God, but he believes in Mom, and he does go to church. I don't respect that. So young Sheldon is out of my atheist Mount Rushmore. About that scene, did you think Luffy was dodging it? Were you in Eneru's shoes, or by that point were you like, okay, it's just not working on him?
I think I was willing to believe that at first. Like, there's the panel where he's sort of, from his perspective, I think he's just down into the right of the impact of the attack behind him. So it wasn't so obvious immediately, because it's not like what transpires immediately after as we see that sort of direct contact and how it's ineffectual. But for that first attack, it did look like it seemed to land out of the way. So at first, I was believing it, and I was still kind of sticking with my last prediction, like, okay, he's got these rubber qualities, but I feel like maybe we would have seen something else. Like maybe, I don't know, would have been a great example previously to this, because I'm not maybe the most knowledgeable about rubber, but I know about the like I know that he erases things. Maybe he could like rub his hand on some paper and it would have erased something.
Yeah, does if a rubber object in real life has the same rubber properties as Luffy, does that mean? And I wrote down these attacks, and we were close. The final attack is 100 million volt Vari. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. If we hit a piece of rubber with that, it's not going to get burned or anything. Because Luffy later gets burned by it, but only because it's heating up a piece of metal or something like that. But really, rubber would not be damaged at all. We have a few experiments to do, Eggy. Because we might have to have a word with Oda in the SBS. Hey, 90 volumes ago, you said... And then, question mark, profit, etc., Eggy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe that the way that this works is generally rubber would like sort of ground the attack. But yeah, I think that for the amount of energy being generated and like the size, I know I'm not trying to be too, well, actually, and with all like the numbers and equations floating around my head and everything, but I'm saying I looked at it twice, and it kind of makes good on it later on. And actually, to be honest, we're not quite there yet. It didn't really quite turn out the way that I thought, but I think I had mentioned previously, when we had Wiper, Zoro, Nami, and was it? I'm trying to think. Well, the end of the last volume, where he is electrocuted and he comes back, and I was thinking something like Zoro and Nami were going to put something together, like that she was going to utilize her weather tech, and she does to a point, and then she kind of it almost kind of worked like the support character. It kind of was like, okay, it's gonna be the support characters are gonna be the biggest part of the story, never mind, boom, all right, Luffy, all right, he's here to handle business, we know how he gets down. Ooh, wait, not quite. Oh wait, now it's the support characters, but also still once again not quite.
This is like Goku gets incapacitated and Yamcha has to defend for a little bit. That's, Usopp coming up to basically 1v1. And Nami, really, for a lot of these characters, Eneru is so powerful that it takes all of their combined skills and abilities just to barely survive. Like, Nami's using her genius just to, like, deflect the lightning attack to survive for a few seconds until somebody can come help her.
A lot of ducking, yeah, but at least it's not totally out of the realm of possibility that Luffy could have ducked the first attack of Eneru, because we do see people who are objectively less combat skilled than him that seem to be able to, take care of it all right to a point. But what I mean to say with all this that I've been saying is that this volume really left me guessing, because I wanted to lean in on my predictions. I wanted really to just be one way or the other. And the way this volume goes, there's just a lot that's pulling you back in and out. No, wait, no.
Are you, like, maybe disappointed that Eneru is not more powerful, or what's the issue that's pulling you out of it?
Well, just who I think is going to be sort of like in the midst of the real final showdown. And actually, I want to say this too. I think preceding this volume, I did not expect a real possibility that everybody is going to be going down to the Blue Sea. By the time that this volume concluded, I'm feeling like it is a stronger possibility. Like last time I was saying, okay, maybe they're going to find some way to utilize the Ark, which we get to see here now. Finally, it's a beautiful vessel. I hope it's included in another One Piece media because I really enjoy the design of it. But I thought maybe somehow we're going to take Eneru out of here, and those who have been subjected to his oppression are going to be able to utilize this maybe to expand their territory, so there's enough for everybody to kind of be peaceful with. But as we go through this volume and at the conclusion of it, I'm honestly feeling, not to be a little too fast with the predictions here for the next volume, but I am definitely leaning in with my heart and the pit of my stomach here that everybody's going to have some new land to look at, and it's going to be something way different, not in the sky whatsoever.
In that final panel when Eneru is launching his attack on the land of Skypia, I counted very closely, Eggy, at how many lightning strikes are hitting the land. And by my count, it was 17. And I double-checked. I thought it was going to be 16. It looks like it's 17. Spoiler alert. Very interesting choice. Maybe it's intentional. Maybe it was unplanned. Who knows? But, yeah, there's a chance that maybe this storyline about displaced people and, like, an sort of immigrant story of Europeans coming over to terrorize the natives, maybe it would be very ironic if all those characters now have to be the refugees on the Blue Sea.
Although, as I was just saying, I guess I did think we get a bit of knowledge that we never had before. We get a little discussion of where Eneru had came from prior to everything that's going on now. Prior to his ascension to Kami, back when Gonfor was still Kami, he came from a... I didn't have the name. I know it's like Brickle or
Burka, maybe?
Oh, yeah. So I think this is maybe the first time that I can think of it since we've been in Skypia where there's been, obviously it's mentioned that this island was destroyed by Eneru as he kind of, he got his devil fruit power, destroyed this, and then kind of, once he realized his power, he came over to conquer and become Kami over here. But if that was another sky island that did exist, and maybe it's possible that there's even further sky structures that we are not familiar with yet. So that's maybe a possibility for where people could hang out in if they need to do a little reconstruction. But
maybe send them to a different sky island if there's more out there. That makes sense.
Yeah, something. I'm feeling pretty strong on. They're already boarding people from the Angel Island to go to the Cloud's End to prepare themselves for descent. So I feel like it's definitely a possibility, but like I said, there's a lot of back and forth here. It's hard for me to...
I'm getting, from all the villager scenes, I'm getting the energy of like the final hour or so, or maybe like the final second half of the Titanic movie. Are you a fan of that one? Which is all the people, the horrible disasters coming, and they're all going to die, and just in the lifeboats. But lightning is striking. I don't know. Your iceberg is here, folks. Can Luffy run up a giant jack with a giant gold ball on his arm in time and somehow still got onto a fucking flying Mario ship? Did you get vibes of the flying Mario Fortress when you saw the Ark Maxim?
You know, actually probably the closest that I felt was a game I'm very fond of. You might have heard of it, Skies of Arcadia.
No.
Oh, it's a great game. You should... maybe we could do, or I could introduce you. The game, it was originally released for the Dreamcast, and then there was like a extended version called Skies of Arcadia Legends that was released for the GameCube later on. I don't know if there was any further releases, but really an incredible game. But a big thing of it is that you are on this flying ship and you're investigating all this stuff. It's like an RPG. It's got some other mechanical elements and things. But yeah, I was getting a bit of the Skies of Arcadia energy. And I also enjoyed... Well, one of my previous predictions was, okay, Eneru, he got this gold. I'm thinking he's using it to enhance his own powers, but as it turns out, the gold of Shandoria that Eneru had come into possession of, it was utilized in the Ark Maxim in order for him to be able to use his electricity powers to operate this flying ship. This was the power source for the ship in combination with some dials that he had taken with him from his previous homeland when he destroyed it, and it was all utilized to make this ship come together. So I'm just glad also, yes, I mentioned the conductivity of gold, that played into it somewhat, not exactly what I expected, but that it, had some role. I felt accomplished to know that, I guess. It's like second grade science, but...
So if his goal is to use a flying ark to go to Endless Vars, does that give you any inkling of where he's trying to go?
To be honest, I guess I couldn't really say 100% for sure. I mean, away from here, I guess, whatever direction he's going.
Because if he's going down to the Blue Sea, that's not Endless Vars, that's a billion tiny islands. So, what does he know something we don't know, or is he just basing this off of legends he heard, and he's just going to be floating around endlessly for nothing?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's in the last volume. He said, it's the it's like the God Land, right? It's the land of the kami. I mean, hey,
the biggest landmass down there is the Red Line. He's going to float on down to the Red Line?
With the way that the Grand Line was operating before we got it to Skypia, I mean, frankly, there's infinite possibilities as far as I'm concerned. I couldn't really say 100% for sure. I think he definitely could know more than what we've been informed of up to this point, but I don't know if I really read anything in this volume that indicated a sure thing for me, other than I believe he's looking for the bell, the golden bell.
He wants to take it with him as a cute little souvenir. I guess that's the way Luffy can catch him, is just, but look, didn't he find the bell? Like, we see him standing in front of the bell here, don't we?
What I thought was interesting is, so the giant jack, we've been talking about this ever since, we kind of laid our eyes on it. We're talking Jack and the Beanstalk. I was under the impression previously that the giant jack, that sort of the seat at the top, I thought they had approached the top before, and I thought that was the seat of the kami, but it
goes even higher, I guess.
Yeah, that was sort of like the stop along the way, and that they think the golden bell is on the very top.
Okay, so nobody has seen the bell yet. Maybe I'm remembering something from next volume too soon. It is what it is, spoiler 2. But yeah, I thought we'd reached the top of that already, and I'm like, well, if his seat was the highest point on the stock previously, like, what was the holdup? He's just kind of like, hey, don't pay attention, guy. He's like, it's on some Survivor stuff. Like, I'm definitely not going to go walk by myself up to the top of the stock and grab anything. Just don't pay attention to this. Should we, in lieu of not having any new members or comments to read, should we remind people, 30 episodes into this podcast, that we've had an ongoing art contest this whole time? It's been half a year, still 0 entries, but Eggy, what is this contest and what is the prize?
Well, the last time I checked, folks, the Mumkey D. Jones channel has a channel art which is featuring a squid man who is arguably neither a virgin nor with an eggy head. And therefore, we had mentioned possibly, and I don't think it was a full 30 episodes ago, maybe about 27 episodes ago was possibly the last time we mentioned it, somewhere in that ballpark. We would like some updated art. Now, what is the incentive for you folks? Well, just as it was at the last time we mentioned it, I still have here. Bum, 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 bum. That's right, this is a copy of a One Piece, the Volume 1, the one that starts at all, the one that I believe is currently possibly the lowest rated arc. I don't know if Volume 1 covers the whole thing, but I think it does. Anyway, but that's not what you're in for, folks. Not just the beautiful beginnings of Monkey D. Luffy. This also will contain, inside of the front cover, Sharpified signatures from me, myself, and I, and your glorious captain, Mr. Mumkey D. Jones. So do not wait. Do not hesitate. You know what? How many weeks has it been? 28. But if you're feeling...
Maybe somebody's been working on an artwork so good that it's been taking them half a year. And once they enter, they'll win. Just email it to any of my emails. Maybe like... SimmyandJimmyBusiness@gmail.com. Really, any of them, I'll get any email. So send in artwork that can be used for the channel banner here of me and Eggy on our pirate crew, and you'll get that book. Okay, should we go through this a little more chronologically? Because I got some questions for you, Eggy.
Sounds good to me.
So we revealed Eggy maybe got a prediction correct, but did he also get one wrong? Uh-oh. Literally unwatchable podcast. Virgin got something wrong. I asked you, will anybody cuck to Eneru and go with them? And Eggy said, no, I have faith in the crew. These are the true Nakama of the future Pirate King. Nobody would look pathetic. But were we wrong?
Well, I should listen to the hashtag Red Pill Twitter tag. You know what? They might have told me about this. Our most beloved navigator, Nami, you know what? She's been fishman free for an awful long time. But she just buckles, she falters, she says, hey, why not take me along? I will be Mr. Eneru, I will be your disciple, your servant. She doesn't necessarily say that, but that's the idea, is that, you know, she's going to be subservient to his whims in exchange. They don't turn me into dust. I'm coming along with you on the Ark Maxim.
And I think Eneru was intending this from the very beginning, because he spared Nami when he went to the Mary and attacked Usopp and Sanji. When it was too many people for the final 5, he didn't just zap Nami. He said, hey, you guys can decide. So he might have a little bit of a crush on who some people call the hottest character. Can we blame him? I'd want to take Nami to endless verse with my cool golden bell as well.
I mean, frankly, what's the point of having incredible conquests, 1,000 pounds of gold, a flying ship with like a cool, mysterious face on it, if you can't flex it for the girls? I mean, what are you just going to flex it for yourself your whole life? It just isn't hit the same.
And Nami pretty much comes to that exact conclusion in this very volume when she's like, well, if I'm not with my friends, life's not even worth living, so fuck it. You know, might as well just die. I don't want to be with you, Eneru. But it seems like he would not be all that depressed if he was alone. He kind of betrayed all of his followers and didn't give a fuck.
And who's to say that this endless verse that he might reach, might have some new constituents for him to lord over and to toy with?
To toy with.
This was interesting to me because he tells Nami, he says that he's able to listen in on communications. His lightning power allows him to like intercept electric signals. I was like, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, I guess like, yes, our vocals have a frequency, but it was just kind of, I don't know, it was interesting for the way that he, so I guess it's sort of like, wasn't that back in the Soviet Union? I feel like I read something about this in high school 20 years ago, that they would communicate through like cursive penmanship letters or something, and they would do like hand-to-hand letters for communication because there was it was something along those lines. It was easier to communicate that way without having it intercepted by the secret police, the KGB or whatever. So
if we don't want our government 1984ing us, we got to stop doing text messages, go back to some hand-to-hand snail mail. But, Lumen, they can read messages in your pocket in the elevator, so who knows what technology our government has.
Yeah, and that's probably based on stuff that's been declassified in certain circles for like 40 years. We just don't know about it yet.
When do we get to do a podcast about how awesome it would be if Severance was real and like how we would totally do it?
Well, how many episodes are left? Like 3 or 4? I mean, we have 2 years after that for the next season.
Yeah, probably.
Somehow.
But what if we severed ourselves when we read One Piece and then did this podcast? So like, not only are we One Piece virgins, but we're like, and that'd be cool too. Like, you could reread your favorite story, not knowing anything about it, as many times as you want. But then like, the One Piece virgins are like, our only experience in life is One Piece, and like we talk about it, and then we read the next chapter, and then it's back and forth. Wouldn't that be? The Innies and Severance are in hell, but we would be providing heaven.
We'd be like Mont Blanc cricket, just, like we'd enter our room and our little island, and we'd just constantly be hearing all these great stories like, wow, I've been outside that door, it's so cool, like they have flying ships and there's giant sea monsters and there's men who can stretch their limbs, oh my goodness, and wow, I mean, how could they come up with this if it wasn't real?
Yeah, leave notes for the Innie, like this is a history text and you can only go into the world after you know like exactly the context of how we got where we are, so the whole time we think this is like a guidebook to what we're about to experience. Okay, I'm in. Let's sever our brains and torture a version of ourselves, Eggy. I'm on board.
I feel like, for me, it would be something along the lines of, like, taking Xanax, whereas, like, once I would become Innie, my very, very strongly cemented inhibitions would all be gone. I would just start, like, punching the walls and screaming and, like, doing backflips.
Wait, did that happen when you took Xanax? You just became, like, a zombie?
I've never taken Xanax. I've taken something else that I forget off the top of my head that's similar. But in any case, yeah, I feel like if I just blanked and I would still have like my existing brain damage and existing like poor physical quality, I'd probably just be like, probably. But I did think about it. So
instead of completely chronologically, let's stick with doing this character by character. Anything else from what we have with Nami here, other than ultimately the rescue mission is successful and we got, don't her and Usopp end the volume falling off the ship and then observing all the lightning?
And didn't Sanji make it down also? I think.
Oh, that's right. Usopp, he grabbed back on, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. He goes off with Nami on the
waiver.
Waiver, yeah. I want to say wider for some reason. I don't know why, but that's the one I'd have to write. So he gets off the way, but yes, he kind of like has a rope or something. And he gets himself back up on the ship, and Sanji's up there, and then they all end up going down. But I did think, with Nami seemingly betraying the crew's interest again, that was kind of a yikes moment for me. But I also have to say, she, in a fairly quick fashion, ends up rebuking her own decision in that and tells Eneru right to his face, all the riches and everything would not even be worth it if I didn't have my friends, which I really feel is like an incredible character development, especially so soon after she's kind of playing us, or at least maybe that was her process, that she was going to go with Eneru. Maybe she just had the same eureka moment within this couple of chapters rather. But I thought that was incredible that she would ever consider anything to do with another human being more valuable than treasure. I was frankly shocked just as much as I was when she cozied up to Eneru.
Yes, very much top tier Nami moment. I'm wondering, would the better option have been to reject going with Eneru, hopefully having your life spared for the time being since you're all about to be blasted anyway, and then trying to fish Luffy out of the giant snake? Like, wouldn't Luffy still be your best bet, or does she really think he's dead from the snake getting L-Thored? Like, go get fucking Luffy. He's literally standing in the eyeball of the snake.
Yeah, I thought that... I couldn't quite tell exactly, because obviously, like, we see Luffy and Aiza, like, holding they appear to be, like, up inside the snake, kind of... We see the snake, like, winking, and then, like... And then like so I kind of thought that the snake was actually going to come to, and that the snake was going to play another larger role here, because I'm really racking my mind trying to think like, okay, where are we going to go now? We have everybody just sizzling on the ground here. Eneru and Nami are out doing their thing. I didn't really know where we were going to go from here. Then I see Luffy in the eyes and everything, so I was like, oh, are they going to do it SpongeBob style and start moving some levers around in the brain. But Snake just yawns and casts them out.
Fall out. Yeah.
That works just as good.
Let's talk about Zoro. You did predict, hey, they got this sea prism stone now. Maybe that's the way to beat Eneru. Zoro does attempt it. He grabs it. He's charging at him. But then like a big lightning kitten? It looks like a wolf, but it's spelled almost like kitten. So I don't know what that animal is, but Zoro gets completely obliterated by this. He's down for the count along with everybody else because Eneru revived his heart. Luffy comes up, he finds Zoro's body, and this is kind of justification for last volume when Zoro found Chopper's body, and I forgot to mention it, but he was a little bit disrespectful. He's kind of victim-blaming Chopper, like, oh, how could you let this happen? Why were you here alone? Like, okay, calm down, Zoro. He won his fight. But Luffy finds the corpses, he finds Zoro, and he says, with you here, how could this happen? Because, and that is so telling to me, because Luffy considers Zoro to be his equal in terms of power. Like, Luffy, Zoro, and Wiper, I would say, based on what we see in combat, they're all on the same tier ranking, for sure, in terms of fighting, and power, and endurance. So, I thought that was a great little vice captain moment of, like, I cannot believe Zoro lost. Like, this is inconceivable. I've only ever seen him lose against Mihawk. And my philosophical question to Eggy is, does this count as a Zoro loss? He said he will never lose again.
Well, as it stands at the moment, it is very hard for me to say that this is not the case. As the volume went, I kind of thought at that point that they're dead. Like, it's going to have to be something. I've had this floating in my mind possibly ever since the trials, like the ball trial and everything. I'm thinking to myself, if we're in the Godland and a Straw Hat member were to die, I want to think that somehow there's some kind of magical, mysterious, only Skypia. It's like in a video game where you can only use an item in a certain place. Somehow, if they die, there's still some kind of Godland power, maybe Shandorian ritual or something. That
Soul
can bring them
dial.
Yeah.
This dial has a soul in it.
Soul Stone, yeah. But I did think that when I saw Zoro and all of them down for the count. Now, Robin does get up of her own volition a bit later on in the volume.
And has a great panel where she grows feet out of everybody's backs to walk them to safety.
Yeah, not to get too ahead of myself here, but once again, my mind at that point was, all right, if everybody's going to the Blue Sea, they are going to, if their heart's still beating or they're still breathing in some capacity, they're going to be able to get them onto a ship or something that's where they're going to be able to start recovering. But with that being said, I don't see any kind of way that this could be considered anything but a Zoro loss. I mean, he got BTFO. He was down for the count. He didn't, I mean, his body had to sprout legs from Robin to walk him.
Well, so to play Devil Fruit's advocate here, when Zoro says he's not going to lose again, does he only mean in a sword battle? Because he wants to be the world's greatest swordsman, not the world's greatest fighter.
Yeah, I could see that angle.
Well, the Zoro fans absolutely refuse to see anything but that angle, Eggy. They have no choice. There's no other way to slice it.
I have nothing against Zoro, and he's really great. I was playing some more Grand Adventure single player mode just a couple of days ago, and he's got great power. I have a lot of love for Zoro, but I mean, this was definitely a loss. It's not swordsman v swordsman, so if that's how we want to play it, that's cool by me. I would anticipate if that's how we're going to be seeing it in the moving forward in the future here from maybe his fight with Mihawk, that he might get his butt kicked a few more times then, but he's still a very strong fighter nonetheless.
Yeah, not much you can do against God when he can turn into electricity and you can't even cut him. Good move or a good attempt with that Prism Stone, but just came up a little bit short. It's too bad. Should we briefly talk about, I think we get maybe 4 or 5 panels of the Ace cover story, Eggy. And I was actually a little bit shocked by the events here. Of course, we have Ace, who Blackbeard, he's pursuing Blackbeard. Blackbeard was literally on his crew, on his ship with him, so he should know what he looks like. And yet, mistakes are made, Eggy.
I mean, really, this Dr. Blackbeard resembles Blackbeard so significantly, though. I mean, I think the only difference, I mean, they both have this very large, round torso shape and like kind of these small legs. They both have, well, obviously the Blackbeard, sort of the black tufts of hair. I think probably the foremost thing that I noticed about the mistaken Blackbeard was that he has all his teeth. Like as he gets kicked, it looks like he's got a full mouth of teeth. There's no like inclination that even he got knocked out when he did get struck. And then I also found it very interesting that these villagers, along with the mistaken Dr. Blackbeard, have the wherewithal to just throw Ace into a river. Like, what? Come on, like Ace, you have a ship, right? I mean,
well, and that was the other shocking moment. Was I think Ace, he feels perhaps so guilty about he kicked an innocent person in the face, like he just attacked, for no good reason. As a devil fruit user, getting thrown in the river, he's dead. Like if Moda, the milkmaid, does not fish him out and give him CPR, Ace is dead, and Ace can easily turn into fire. So he's allowing these villagers to kill him rather than turn into flame and injure them further. So, I mean, whether it's cartoon logic or not, it's literally what is happening. He's sacrificing his life out of like guilt and shame and allowing himself to die. Like, I thought that was a crazy moment. Like, if anything, just run away like you've done from every restaurant you've ever eaten at. Yeah,
that would be, I mean, just to imagine that would be how he goes out. Like, that's awful. It's very
he gets saved by a lovely milk maiden with her village of cows, and he's so grateful for his life being saved that he's going to deliver a letter for her. So who knows what the hell that's going to be. And then he ends up undercover at the Marine base, or the Navy base, and he does what we would do and goes straight to the all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yeah, he's living up to his brother, and you know how they would conduct themselves for sure, being honorable and also completely stuffing his face. And I want to say just something that very few people watching this would know about me, but I used to have a whole thing on my channel years ago. I was very fond of milkmaids because there was a video years ago that I got sent from the Townsend's Historical Reenactment Society, where they had a woman whose job it is there is to churn butter for like the historical reenactment. She was a very lovely woman, so we had like this whole butter churning milkmaid meme that we had throughout the community for like a year and a half at that time. So I'm always very warm towards milkmaids, and obviously my inclinations, historically speaking, are right on the money for our character here. What was her name? Lisa? I forget.
Eggy, once it warms up, there's a place over by Jordan Creek Mall I gotta take you to. It's called Living History Farms, where you get to go through the complete history of Iowa with like, you start off with Native American times, like they have a legit teepee. It's exactly how they were living back then. And then you go down the path, and then you get real European civilization, and it's a bunch of people like it's a living museum. Like the people just pretend that they live in the 1800s. So we could literally hook you up with an actual 1800s milkmaid, somebody who does that for a living, even though it's cosplay. They're literally still doing it. Is that the goal? We're going to get Virgin Eggy to lose his virginity with a lovely Living History Farms milkmaid. Stay tuned, folks. What other One Piece podcast gives you this kind of content?
That's right. Shout out to all my butter churners. And I believe there's some really great recipes you can find these days where I think you can just like hit a pile of cream or like a container of cream with like one of those immersion blenders, and it'll like separate the butter fat or whatever, and you can like just put it into like a cheesecloth and wring out, and you can have like your own butter at home. I'm not explaining it very well, but you can also do something similar with mayonnaise, where you put the immersion blender into some nice oil. It makes mayonnaise. So go invest $20 to $30 in an immersion blender, folks. Look up these recipes on YouTube. You will not regret it.
Okay, are you ready to talk about Wiper, Eggy? We got some Wiper. Last time we seen him, he uses his second rejectile. He kills Eneru, but Eneru revives his heart with electricity. Here we have Wiper collapsing, but then he gets back up, and he says he stands for his ancestors, and we get a flashback to, I think this is Wiper as a child hearing stories about ancestors from the tribe chief. And we don't get the answer to this, but a new mystery is revealed. The great warrior Kalgara from 400 years ago. He wanted to take back their homeland for some secret, mysterious reason. The sentence is cut off, but we don't know what it is yet. Do we have any ideas, Eggy?
Well, my first thought was something along the lines of the poneglyph, to be honest. Because if we know that, people had given their lives on the blue sea to the poneglyph, maybe there was some sort of inclination, some sort of rumor or myth or tale, lore, you know what I'm saying, that had been passed down of this existing, and maybe it has some incredible great knowledge, some incredible great information. So that's something that was really the first thing to come to mind for me. And then I kind of thought maybe like the gold bell or something, but poneglyph was sort of maybe my top thoughts, even if they didn't know exactly what it was or what it might have said, that we had been sort of led to believe that people had sacrificed themselves about it by Robin and her investigation of the Shandoran runes. So that's what I thought.
That is a good theory based on evidence and the story so far, Eggy. I'll give you that, and we'll find out perhaps next volume if you're correct. I should reveal a secret, Eggy. Maybe the reason why I got a little bit mixed up on what happened this volume and what happened next volume. I had one other top of mind, and it didn't feel like it was in the correct spirit of the top of mind segment to do it, but maybe I should anyway. Because really, my top of mind from Volume 30 here is actually my anticipation of Volume 31. It is without question, Eggy, and I fear I might hype it up too much for you, but then again, I like it so much I don't even care if you don't like it, so hype away. But Volume 31 might be my most reread volume of One Piece ever. Like, just to pick it up and read it as its own book, cover to cover, it's a standalone to some extent. The manliest tears will be shed by those who are truly tapped into the wavelength. And it makes like the Chow Chow story seem like child's play, Eggy. Like, I think about how we have Alabasta at S tier on our tier list. And while I stand by that, I feel like maybe we might need to establish a new SS tier above it, because the story that's told in Volume 31, it is truly elevated to a new echelon above Alabasta, just in my opinion. I don't know if everybody feels that way, but man, I could not resist. As soon as I finished doing the notes on this, I did briefly peruse Volume 31 already. Did not take notes on it because I'm going to do a proper reading for next week, but I could not resist. I had to go to it right away. So that's my other top of mind, Eggy. Just the best is yet to come.
Well, you want to know what that makes me think of?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Well, it makes me think that, I said earlier, a little bit ago here, that by the time I concluded with Volume 30, what I felt in sort of in the pit of my stomach, heart, whatever, my true self, whatever you want to call it, these people are going down to the Blue Sea. If this is so incredible as I'm hearing from you, or this anticipation, I'm going to think that is what's going to happen. Skypia, I mean, can we just say for a second here that this is Eneru's like final phase? He calls it Death Pia. I mean, is there
That's
like
epic?
I don't know exactly. Maybe my Japanese isn't so good, but it just kind of, I was like, Guy Pia, and I'm about to bring Death Pia. I was like, I'm kind of getting like some, feels like a little Pokemon energy, like Pika Pika. I don't know. It was interesting, but anyway.
I have to imagine he just replaced the kanji for sky with the kanji for death, but I don't know how Japanese works myself, but I think if I call this episode Welcome to Death Pia, people might. But then again, this is Luffy versus Eneru also, so maybe that's more of a clickbait. But continue.
So I think that, we already see at the end of the volume that something is transpiring. It's not like he's being totally apprehended from utilizing the steps of this plan in this way where he's having the lightning come down from the sky. I'm going to imagine that Skypia will fall. That's going to be my prediction, I guess, because the lightning's coming down, the damage is being done. I think that they'll be able to save themselves. They'll be able to save, hopefully, the villagers. Maybe some won't make it. But if I had to guess what would be the emotionally jerking part of this hypothetical for me is, I'm very much just like Robin. I'm a real lover of history and things like that. And I would imagine that if there is this total ruin brought to Skypia, even if everybody's lives are saved, or most of their lives are saved through being able to reach the Blue Sea and not just falling like a million miles down to certain death, that they will have a lot of incredible, important artifacts, history, things to the Shandorans, some of their, prized history, just everything blown to smithereens. That would certainly jerk a couple tears for me, that's for sure.
I'll say if you are intrigued by Shandoran history, this might be for you.
I'm going to read it.
But enough about that. We need to move on. Anything else from the Ace cover story that comes to mind? Do you have any predictions of where that's going? If he's undercover as a Marine in a Navy base, eating their food on his search for Blackbeard.
Well, let's see, was that... I guess we haven't seen any of the Marines. We didn't see any in the Wapol nor the Hachi stories. It's been since the Boogie Paradise. But I suppose if I had to guess, I might be thinking into it too much because we've had kind of a good couple of scene changes just in the first bit here. So he might just be in and out of the Marines very quickly. But I would imagine at the very least, moving forward here with Ace's cover story, he's probably going to get some information maybe about Blackbeard while he's with the Marines. That's going to get him on his trajectory to his next place. But it was very nice of the Milkmaid to save his life, and it was very noble of him to make that sacrifice.
And I saw he still has his swastika flag when he was in front of the Marine base, so they haven't, or Oda hasn't changed his mind about that great choice yet.
The Marines just looked outside and they're like, oh, that might be one of ours.
His grandpa's on his way into... Oops. We haven't even gotten one comment complaining about that, which is the weirdest thing. Like, I thought at least one person would be mad that I claim Oda's grandpa worked for the Nazis, but maybe the fact that it's probably true, they can't complain. Anyway, should we talk a little bit more about Luffy versus Eneru? Because Luffy pulls out one of his best moves of all time, Gum Gum Space Out, I think is what he called it, when he turns off his brain to just use his instincts to dodge the attacks. What'd you think of all that?
Well, I thought that... I don't know if I've had a Luffy literally me moment yet, but that's a power that I'm very familiar with. Just shutting my brain off and letting things happen.
Should we do that for the next 5 minutes of the podcast and just see what happens?
Well,
it looks like you just injected heroin.
When I did the film Hostage Museum, there was a scene where I took a bottle full of YouTube pills that were supposed to play YouTube videos in my brain. I hadn't watched the Smosh movie yet at that point.
Who made this? What are you talking about?
That's a movie I did a part in 5 years ago.
Was that the one when you're standing at the hardware store not saying anything?
No, but I did act a bit spaced in that also. I think I have a copy of it somewhere in my email, but it was like a short film that some guys from Twitter did, and when I was out working in Rhode Island, I did a scene.
Nobody I would know.
No, the guy who I linked up with went by God's Liquor Cabinet, and he was a very muscular guitar player. But
how did those short films compare to Maybe I Was the Dancing Baby? As an actor, what really fulfilled your soul more?
I feel like Hostage Museum might have been closer to feature length.
Oh, shit.
I'd be 90 minutes long.
And you didn't make it in just 2 days? How long did you have to film for that?
I just did the one scene. I was out in Providence, and we actually filmed in Worcester, which is like Worcester, spelled like that, in Massachusetts. So we drove down to it was the fire department building, but it was like it had been condemned or something, and it had gotten bought by an artist collective. So they would play concerts where they used to park the fire trucks in this big open space, and then up top was like where the muses would live, and they all like paid rent to some degree, and they would like draw and do art in these rooms in the fire station. And yeah, we were up in like, I want to say the crawl space maybe, but it was like a room that had like right before the roof access, and I have a picture of myself like standing on the roof of it or whatever. But yeah, basically the idea was that I like whoever was popular. I don't even think I said like Mr. Beast, but I may have said like PewDiePie or something, and I like eat this whole bottle of YouTube pills, and then I'm just like, oh, and like drooling all over the place.
Didn't you also reference PewDiePie at the end of one of our short films when you're laying unconscious by a dumpster?
Yeah, also very similar performance. So I'm good at space. I'm saying, folks, you know, people are saying, why are you talking about this? It all ties back together. If there's one thing here that Luffy and me have in common, we can space out. And I got some of the Drunken Master. Was that from like Street Fighter or Tekken or whatever? There's one of these fighting games, maybe it's King of Fighters, but there's like the Drunken Master where he's like swirling around all over the place, but he still has the moves to make it work. So relatable moment is all I'm saying.
More relatable moments from Luffy. He brings down the brutal hammer on Nami when she's like, oh, but Luffy, if you defeat Eneru, then the ship that's flying in the sky right now will lose power and we're gonna die. Shouldn't we be concerned? And Luffy hits her with, you're a crew member of the future king of the pirates. Stop looking so pathetic. Have we ever seen Luffy be so like brutally serious and kind of cutting to Nami of all people? Like this was kind of insane. Everybody's having character arcs on this ship.
I don't think so, because we go back to, you know, I mentioned before her last stint of being a little wishy-washy, little fence sitting maybe back in Arlong Park. You know, she's basically begging Luffy, like, you know, to not to go, and he's just so locked in mentally to just doing whatever he needs to do to protect her and save her that he goes like that. But I mean, yeah, they've definitely done a lot since then, so I kind of felt that he made a good point here. And Usopp, you know, he kind of he has a little cowardly moment there where he kind of pulls up, he kind of pops out from the inside of the ship.
He shuts the door. That was fun. I laughed out loud.
Oh, Usopp's not here yet?
Or Sanji's not here? Yeah, he just ditches Nami immediately. And then he also does like a cool front flip and then hits his face on the railing of the ship.
Gets a big old knot.
Yeah, he can't even be badass without being foolish. It's very funny. And the fight with Eneru, he turns his pole into like a trident just by making so much energy through it. He can just change the shape of it because he figures out Luffy's weakness is sharp objects, and Luffy confirms it for him immediately because he can't lie, not even to God. And when Eneru like goes through the gold really fast to stab Luffy in midair, I thought that was going to be a brutal attack, but it seems Luffy even in midair kind of did not get stabbed too much and was more just getting burned by how hot the trident was.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the silhouette that is shown when Eneru makes the lunge. I think it kind of has the silhouette, like the shadow of the trident, overlaid with Luffy, so it kind of gives you like this perception.
It was like, yeah, like Crocodile piercing Luffy with the hook. Like I thought that happened again, and I even forgot that Luffy did not get stabbed. And in my reading, I was like, oh shit, Luffy got brutally stabbed. No, he was fine. Whatever. He can take it. I mean, one stab to the gut's not going to stop you from dragging 100 pounds of gold up a cliff.
Well, and I could say also, I think there could be an argument made that if you have this supercharged blade, this super energy blade, that if you were to receive a piercing wound, it might be cauterized immediately also. I feel like I've seen something along those lines in media throughout my life, but in any case,
like a lightsaber?
Yeah. Right.
Which they do have, those saber dials up there, or whatever the fuck they called them. But Eneru, he melts the gold to make a giant ball on Luffy's arm and then kicks it off the ship, and Luffy tries to hang on but falls down. And then even fucking Isa and Pierre get blasted with I think an L Thor. And thankfully Isa, being a literal tiny child, does not somehow get injured at all, just for Pierre. These animals are not putting up with Eneru very much.
Right. I thought to myself as Luffy's falling and they're kind of, even before the strike from Eneru there, the beam, I'm thinking to myself, like, if Luffy tries to grab on and he's got this much momentum with this giant gold, like, I'm thinking that they're all going down, but...
like he's an anchor dragging the whole ship down, yeah. But I guess that gold was on the ship anyway, so, not a huge difference in weight happening. Were you hyped as fuck when you see the grappling hook hanging off the bottom of the ship and we see Sanji and Usopp coming to save the day?
Yeah, I guess I didn't necessarily see it going like that up to this point, but they had enough, and maybe this bodes well then also for Eneru's other victims, if we're kind of like charting out the time from impact and victimization from Eneru, and then what the time frame they might need to recover from the strike, as long as it's not lethal. But
yeah, we gave him like 2 volumes. In One Piece terms, if you're not recovered by then, you might as well be dead. And there's a great comedic moment that becomes deadly serious later when Sanji says, "Listen, Usopp, if it's for Nami, I'm okay with you sacrificing your life." And Usopp's like, "Wah!" But then later on, he knows Sanji's here to sacrifice himself to save Nami, and that's how he knows to go on without him and grapple back on himself. And as long as Nami's safe, Sanji and Usopp are successful as far as they're concerned.
I thought it was really beautiful because, I mean, it just shows, stumbling over my words a little bit here. I feel like the heroic moments for both of them, it just seems to me like they haven't been so front and center recently. So to see them both, just get so harmed early on and then come back for this really major piece. And I guess we should see here, maybe in the next volume, maybe this is going to be part of it, Sanji taking his time to manipulate and jam up the gears of the Ark Maxim while he's in the process of basically sacrificing himself otherwise. And thankfully, he does make it down to the ruins. Arguably, there's still worse things to come, but it was really a very, very cool because he just tanks this attack from Eneru right to the face. I want to say thanks for the light. He's just suited up from this lightning strike. His cigarette's basically disintegrating in his fingers. And we don't know for a moment yet after that he's just getting that time spent to let those gears, get that full jamming effect or whatever exactly he did to manipulate and harm them. But he knows that he has done his part, that he's put in for his team. He did that work. And so he does like, you know what, Eneru, middle finger to you, basically.
In terms of individual moments that will stick in my mind forever, this volume has several. Of course, there's Eneru's reaction to Luffy, and then Sanji getting completely blasted and thanking him for a cigarette light. Just so awesome. Even like he's not doing anything to win the fight. Just getting attacked, Sanji makes it look cool and makes it as badass as possible, getting his ass fucking blasted. And then there's another funny moment with Usopp and Nami, which might be my favorite friendship duo of the Straw Hats, maybe just from this moment alone, when Usopp and Nami, they're facing God. They're the 2 weakest people on the crew, and they kind of start laughing together. And Usopp says, "Well, I'd like to save you, but we're up against the Kami." And she's like, "I know, right?" And they're both laughing. Beautiful little moment for 2 mortals about to be killed. Laughing with your buddy about how absurd your situation is. I enjoyed that. And then Usopp's fighting style of Usopp voodoo, yelling at God, "Paper cuts between your fingers! Paper cuts between your fingers! Splinter under your fingernail!" That kind of shit. And just one panel of Kami just looking bored and pissed, and then he's just smacking Usopp in the face with his trident or something. Very funny. Everything from Usopp versus Kami is just gold for me. Maybe one of my favorite Usopp fights, if it even fucking counts, which maybe it does.
like I said, I think I like to think I'm going to really need to see volume 31 to feel out just maybe how impactful all of this is on their parts right now. But I would like to think that it is all necessary tactics to help in the overarching goal of stopping Eneru, and that they're all doing their parts. They're all playing to their strengths. And I also want to say, as a former full-time gas station employee, the cuts between the fingers is something that is extremely triggering to me. I used to have to bust down like 100 cartons of cigarettes a day, like going, like you pulling on the cardboard or whatever, and that would just ruin like 2 or 3 days of work right there, because you would get your finger underneath the cardboard. You had to do a lot of this sliding motion. It was not uncommon to get yourself a little slice, and that was a very huge pain for having to do a lot of that repetitive work. So the
Usopp voodoo was successful even on you as the reader.
It was rough. Because I think he mentions the splinter. Nami says, ah! And he goes, no, you're not supposed to listen to this.
Yeah, what do you want to die?
And then he mentions the fingers, and I'm like, no. I'm like, Nami, ah. Canker sores, well, you'd think with how much I drink or
have
drank in the past, but...
Yeah. Back in like 2017, most Mumkey Jones videos would be delayed because they'd have a fucking canker sore and couldn't record the script proper. It is what it is. I don't know where I was getting them from, because I haven't gotten them actually in a long time. So, might have been dating people with herpes. I don't know, but I don't got it now. So,
that's right.
I have better excuses for why I'm not making videos. Eggy, anything else from this volume? Any predictions for the future? Because I think I've covered everything I had in my notes.
Yeah, I just want to talk about Conus returns to Angel Island. So we had some of this, I think, in the last volume. We know when she was taken away by Gonfor before, there was a big spectacle. She's against the kami. She's a blasphemer. And she has a lot of this ill will built up towards her. She has the white berets on the hunt for her. She's, public enemy number one. And she ends up pulling up on the shore of Angel Island. It even runs right into one of the white berets, knocks him out real heavy with the waver impact. The
exact thing that Nami did to the same guy earlier. And, Conus was not so hot about it. Now she's having a full character arc and doing the exact thing that she was upset about. Yeah, I thought that was a great little moment too.
But just for her to land and everybody's immediately against her, they're all ready to go in. A child, maybe a little bit of, we talk about the cover stories having parallels to the real story. A kid throws a rock at her head, draws blood. Wapol didn't have blood drawn, but he did get, pelted in the head before, a little bit in the past. But the way that Conus gets everybody to understand that she is telling the truth, that Eneru is ready to strike down Skypia and completely obliterate everybody, is she blasphemes the kami in front of everybody that's there, everybody on Angel Island, and there is no punishment because Eneru is currently already busy with everything else he's got going on, so he doesn't take that time to go smite her then. And then people say, oh, she just blasphemed the kami. He knows that she did. Now we all are questioning ourselves, our faith in the kami. And then we also find out that the White Berets, or at least their leader, or I believe he's the leader, he was aware in the past that Eneru had destroyed his previous homeland. And he was like, oh, well, I just was hoping that if we all just bow down and, if I enforced that you all had to bow down to the kami, that he would then spare your lives accordingly and we wouldn't suffer that same fate. But just like we might have covered this in previous arcs, certain situations, you will never win to cooperate with terrorists, folks. That's right. No, you can't just keep on being apologetic and submissive in the face of an unrelenting enemy. You have to stand up, be confident, and just be yourself and not be bound down to power, because this is what it gets you. But the
story of Skypia and all the different players involved very much are a microcosm of One Piece in general, Eggy. And to harken back to something maybe I even talked about today, we have these government army generals who know that they're technically working for, let's face it, the bad guys, but if they go against them, it's going to be even worse. So sometimes the people in power have to work for the bad people for the sake of the citizens. Ideally, they would turn their back, but in the One Piece world, you don't have a choice when your god has lightning powers. And what powers did the real world equivalent have? Who could say? Maybe some blackmail instead of lightning mail, but I'm not saying Oda's grandpa is a white beret, but I'm not saying he didn't work for Enel or Eneru.
All I'm saying is, do we have the logs for who was flying on the Ark Maxim? That's all I'm saying, folks. Without the black bars.
Let's see. There's Eneru, Luffy, Nami, Saji, and Usopp. That's a pretty bad black book. Don't want to be caught on that one. Anything else from this volume, Eggy?
Well, I think I've covered it pretty good. I came in thinking that, okay, we got the support, Luffy's in the snake, we got the support characters doing their thing. Oop, never mind, here goes Luffy. All right, he's going to do what he does. Oop, okay, now we're back kind of more on the rest of the crew to handle that business. And they do play their part, but we have things already in motion. This is almost kind of like if, to make another Alabasta analogy here, like if maybe the bomb had gone off, we're seeing the destruction plan has at least one gear rolling, even if it's a jam gear, something's going on here. We got lightning strikes, and I would like to specifically mention, I didn't have it noted here, but I know that it is stated here, Mama Ragan, I don't know, but the feast. This is what Eneru proclaims in the final panel of the volume, Mama Ragan. It sounds like a Digimon evolution. I haven't played that game in 20 years, so I don't know exactly what, but that's just what it came to mind for me. It was like, this is not just your average run-of-the-mill creation of the thunderclouds that he's been building up to for like half the volume. He had all these thunderclouds kind of forming and spreading out, ready to launch these strikes. That's like the magical code word that makes the lightning start striking, and it's looking dicey. Absolutely, for sure. And I want to say this also, it was a really great enhancement to my reading experience that I was reading it this morning when there was 30-mile-an-hour winds going on outside, because they keep on hearkening back to the dark clouds that are sprouting from around like the stock or wherever, and they're kind of spreading out across over Skypia, ready to unleash. And as I'm hearing I really felt like I was in the heat of the action, and thankfully not the lightning strikes, but otherwise.
Eggy, do we think Skypia is coming to a close anytime soon? Will it be next volume, volume after, even further?
Would want to say probably at least 2 more volumes, I think, because right now we're going to need at least, I think, 1 more volume to deal with the fallout of the fact that the attack's happening. Maybe by the conclusion of the next volume, we might have incapacitated Eneru, and then we could have that volume afterwards to sort of deal with the fallout really fully and what's going to happen. If I feel like Skypia might fall, and we're going to have some resettlement going on, maybe some things worked out. I'm thinking at least 2 more volumes of Skypia for me personally, maybe 3. I would say I don't feel like more than 3, but somewhere in that ballpark.
How does Luffy get the giant gold ball off of his arm?
Well, what I thought was going to happen was I thought maybe Robin would be able to like sort of, to be honest, I just thought, this is what came to mind, like she could sprout something like on his arm, like inside the gold ball, and have it like pop out. I don't know if it'd be like a hand to like push from like the inside out.
We leave Luffy, he's running up the giant jack with, the ball dragging behind him, and then Nami on the waiver is going to chase him down. Do we have any idea on what Nami, Luffy, waiver, and gold ball are going to do to stop Eneru, who's still in the ship going towards the bell?
Well, if Eneru is the only one on the ship, I could also see like a Luffy just like doing something like this, like whoosh, having the gold ball, and just maybe, because that's the thing about Skies of Arcadia also, like the in that game, major major non-magical attack is cannons. So you could almost use this gold ball maybe as like a sort of a cannonball type projectile if he's able to find some way to put some momentum behind that, swing it around and launch it at the ship. I think that would be a good way to damage it. Maybe get the ship to fall. I don't know if that would necessarily work to stop everything else bad that's going on, but at least you'd get him out of the sky so he can't engage in that part of his plan.
Okay, Eggy, I think that really does cover it now. As you could probably guess, I'm very excited for the next episode, next volume. Maybe we won't wait until next Wednesday to record that one, who knows? Hopefully I convinced you to want to check it out sooner than later, but I'm also very curious to see if it strikes you the way it struck me and does every time that I read it. It's just a beautiful evolution and elevation of Oda's writing, and I think it's why people love Skypia, like, specifically. But I might be wrong. Comments, let me know. We're not getting too many comments. A lot of people, I think, just like to listen to us talk and don't have too much to add, which is fine, but we read them all, or at least I do. Eggy, anything you want to plug?
Well, I guess I just want to say, if you are listening to this right now, leave a comment about what you enjoyed about this episode the most. And if you're a virgin like me, you know what? Leave some virginity in the comments below. That's what I'm going to ask you to do today. Even if you just, whatever you want to leave, just a happy smiley face because you smiled while reading this or listening to us go through this episode.
If you can research what years Oda's grandpa was in the Japanese military, that would clear up a lot of stuff here. It might change my interpretation of the story if we could just figure that one out. So that's our one piece for you guys to go find, is it's a little bit of backstory hidden out in the world. Bye, everybody.
Oh, peace.